Welcome back to another Bellator fight prediction video. It's been a minute. I haven't done one of these since the beginning of the year, so let me get back into the groove of things. Well, I did the UFC predictions, but Bellator only did one this year, and that was at the beginning of the year. But all that being said, let's get right into the predictions. I'm not predicting the whole card. I'm just going to be predicting like the main four fights because some of these fighters really kind of just debuting and this stuff because Bellator is just had a different way of setting up their card. So right now it's really only four relevant fights on this card. So I'm going to predict those main four relevant fights. And let's just get on into it. So in our first fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, a rematch of a title fight from, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, Phil Davis versus McGeary. So in the first fight, Phil Davis just wrestled McGeary for 5 rounds, dominated him, just took him down, controlled him, landed some ground and pound, nothing really heavy, nothing really close to finishing, but it was really a one-sided fight. McGeary had really no success. It was like one-way traffic. Like present day right now, I don't think much has changed between either fighter. McGeary did go on like a 3-fight losing streak, then just recently rebounded by not like TKO and King Mo. Phil Davis was pretty much only lost to Ryan Bader in 2 close fights, but that was like one in the UFC. Then in Bellator, where he lost a close fight to Phil Davis as well, that you could argue that he won. Then he lost another close fight in his last fight. I forget the name of the guy he lost in the last fight, but that's pretty much the guy on the come up right now. I think it was like a Russian dude or something like that. Pretty solid wrestling, pretty solid all-around fighter right now. And lost a pretty close fight to that guy. And that same guy beat McGeary like pretty handily. Just chopped his leg out till the ref had to stop the fight. So basically what I'm saying with this fight, nothing much has really changed between either guy. I don't think McGeary's wrestling defense has improved all that much. And he might even show another weakness, like his weakness to leg kicks, since he's a boxer type of fighter, and he stands heavily on that lead leg. So maybe Phil Davis with his big legs, and he does have some good leg kicks of his own, can chop that leg up. So that's another opening exposed by McGeary. Whereas McGeary, what's his one path to really beating Phil Davis? Because Phil Davis has solid jiu-jitsu, so that long, tall man jiu-jitsu won't really have any effect on Phil Davis too much. He does have power, but Phil Davis has one of the best chins in the game. He has cardio, so he's not going to be gassing out like King Mo in the first round or stuff like that. And Phil Davis is going to keep going for the takedown, keep being relentless, have that chin on, because he took shots from Rumble Johnson, was barely ever rocked in that fight against Rumble Johnson, like peak Rumble Johnson. So Phil Davis has a chin on him. Took some shots from a lot of good fighters. So I don't think his chin is going to be anything in question. His cardio not going to be in question. His rest not going to be in question. We're going to be McGeary. He's going to be out trying to prove something different. Whereas Phil Davis, he's going to go out there and do what he did in the first fight and probably do it even more impressively. Given that's only 3 rounds, and he probably can exert a little bit more energy because it's not going to be a 5-round fight. He's not going to be fighting in a fight where he's going to extend himself over 2 more rounds. So he's going to probably be looking for the finish a little bit more when he's in those top positions. And I think Phil Davis gets him out in the 3rd round, takes him down, wears him out in those first 2 rounds, break him down, maybe chop that leg out, and make his mobility even worse, and to give something to nag and something for his mind to think about, and just breaks him down on the ground. And I think he takes him out, like I said, in the 3rd round via submission. So in this fight, I have Phil Davis via 3rd round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, Benson Henderson versus Adam Piccolotti. So interesting fight right here. I think it's kind of a step down for Ben Henderson, but this is a perfect opportunity for Adam Piccolotti. He's a solid fighter, like finally on the rise. His skills starting to come together. I'm not saying he's like the youngest spring chicken, but he's still a pretty young fighter. Like he's coming into his prime at 30. He's always been a well-conditioned fighter. Always had some solid grappling, decent enough striking. And I think the biggest factor for him in this fight is that he's peaking right now and that he's hungry. Whereas Ben Henderson, his hunger has been questionable over the past couple years. When he was talking about military, then he was talking about retiring by 30 and stuff. But now I think at this point, he's starting to settle into that fact that I'm not going to join the military. Retirement's going to come eventually, but I'm not going to probably think about it too much. So it's like Ben Henderson himself is kind of, re-peaking. I'm not saying peaking as far as the peak of his career, but as far as after getting past all those, those other side thoughts that kind of took himself away from MMA and been his best. Like he first came to Bellator being cocky at the same, like trying to jump up to welterweight and also talking about retirement at the same time. And that's just not the right mindset. Like you got 1 foot out the door, you got 1 foot trying to be in the military. Then on the other side, you still trying to be cocky and you come up here and fighting like top notch welterweights. Like what's his name? Yeah, I'm not forgetting his name right now. Andre Koreskov. He's trying to jump in and fight Andre Koreskov and thinking just because Ben Henderson dominated him like 3 years ago prior to that you're going to do that to him as well. And that was not a smart move. He came in there undersized and got dominated. Then pretty much after that, he jumped down, tried to fight for title at lightweight and was a good performance, but not to get drift off too much. I think Ben Henderson's mindset is in the right place now. I think he won some good grappling matchups over the past couple years. Cardio been looking solid. His grappling's like transitions been looking solid. His chain wrestling's been looking solid. His overall grappling, I think, has improved a good bit, at least from the recent years. It's improved from his recent years. Not saying his prime years, but his recent years, his grappling has improved over compared to his recent years. Strike has improved from his recent years. And now Ben Henderson is streaking for the first time in a good bit. I think he's on a 2-fight winning streak over. Now I'm gonna get into these names. I'll be forgetting names right now. But definitely Sada Awa was his last fight. Other guy was in the UFC a long time ago. I remember his name, but when you start remembering stuff off the top, you kind of forget. But whatever the case. Ben Henderson streaking. And when Ben Henderson that's streaking is a very confident Ben Henderson, and he's at his best when he's streaking. And right now, Ben Henderson is streaking. And I really don't think Adam Piccolotti beats Ben Henderson in any area. I think Ben Henderson's the better striker. I don't think Adam Piccolotti really presents the power that these other fighters that Ben Henderson fought. Like I said, Andre Koroskov's had a lot of power. Michael Chandler has a lot of power, and he's a real strong physical wrestler, like D1 strong physical wrestler. You got the Pitbull brothers. Both of those guys have some like super heavy bricks in their hands. So yeah, I respect that. I think Adam Piccolotti has some power in his hands, but he's not known for his power in his hand. He might have knockout power, but it's really about average. What's best about him is that he's physically going to be in good shape and can push a high pace and stay in that high pace. But that's what Ben Henderson does as well. I think Ben Henderson does that even better than Adam Piccolotti, and he's done that at the highest level for years, even to this day. So I think Adam Piccolotti can't match his pace, can't match his striking, can't match his versatility. I think Ben Henderson's grappling is at a much higher level, top, bottom, defensively, offensively. And I think Ben Henderson's mind is in the right place for the first time in a long time. And I think Ben Henderson, in any state where he's at, have his mind on the prize or his mind in the right place, I don't think a guy like Piccolotti is going to be too much of or be a guy that's going to beat him. So honestly, seeing this fight, this Ben Henderson, and just putting the pace on Piccolotti, and I see Ben Henderson beating Piccolotti in a pretty clear-cut decision. So in this fight, I got Benson Henderson via decision. Now onto our co-main event, we have in the women's flyweight division, Ilima-Lei McFarland versus Veta Arteaga. So look at this fight. You got Ilima-Lei McFarland, who I think is one of her first, or not her first, but like her second or third title defense of her Bellator belt or flyweight defense of her flyweight Bellator belt. You got Veta Arteaga, who's a scrappy fighter. She certainly got some technical skills to her, some decent submission ability, but she's one of those fighters where you kind of will put her in a position like she's a scrappy fighter. Might not be all that technical. Her fight approach might not be the prettiest, but she's a scrapper. And that's a really good thing to have when you're like not maybe over the hill type fight when you're still young and you could do that stuff. You could participate in those scraps and you could get the advantage of people who just kind of want to be technical. You can outwork them and just beat them in the fights and just rough them up. But against Ilima-Lei McFarland, she got that Hawaiian spear in her and she's a scrapper as well. And I feel she's more technical than Veta Arteaga, much better striking, much better grappling. And so she has a scrapping ability that Veta Arteaga has, plus even more, she's more technically sound than Veta Arteaga. So I think she's going to be able to participate in a scrap, but technique always overshadows that scrappiness, especially when the more talented, or not the talented, but the more skilled fighter also has the scrapping ability in them. So I think at first it's going to be a silent fight, but then the talent is going to start to show and start to break apart, and that's going to separate them. Like at first, that scrappiness going to invite McFarland into the scrap, but then eventually McFarland's talent, her skills is going to shine through, and they're going to start to create a gap that Veta Arteaga is not going to be able to, she's not going to be able to close. She's not going to be able to close that gap in the fight. And it's going to just keep getting wider and wider. And then McFarland starts to pick her off. I think she submits her in the fourth round. After break her down and scrap her in the first 2 rounds, third round, it's going to start to create that gap. She's going to start to break Veta Arteaga down. Then in the fourth round, she gets that submission. So in this fight, I have Ilima-Lei McFarland via 4th round submission. Now to our main event. We have in the welterweight division, Rory MacDonald versus John Fitch. So this is a title fight, but a non-title fight at the same time because it's in the welterweight tournament. Rory MacDonald's still the champion, but for this kind of thing, he's the champion, but it's not an official title defense. It's like, I think what they say, if the champion loses, John Fitch doesn't become the champion or nothing, but it just puts the belt fully off Rory MacDonald. Like Rory MacDonald will lose his belt because he obviously not going to be in the tournament, so he can't win. If he can't win the belt in the tournament, he doesn't have the belt no more. So if he loses John Fitch, he's not the champion. But if John Fitch beats him, he's also not the champion. But I guess he at least said he beat the champ. So in his mind, he is the champ. So some weird stuff going on there, but whatever the case is. So this is an interesting match. You got a long-time UFC top contender, John Fitch. I'm not saying he's not a top contender in UFC right now. I'm talking about in the past. He was a top 5 contender for like 5 years in the UFC when under GSP's reign. You got Rory MacDonald, who was GSP's protege, or at least a training partner of GSP, and was supposed to be seen as that when GSP retires or when GSP leaves or if GSP lost, Rory MacDonald was supposed to take over. But that never happened. And Rory MacDonald's in Bellator now, but he did become champion in Bellator, and he's still doing good for himself, and he's still one of the best welterweights in the world, and he still has a solid resume. So, but let's look at how these guys match up. You got John Fitch, who was seeming like he was on a downtrend in his career. Then he left the UFC and did pretty well for himself. I think he had like 2 losses. He left the UFC and about like 10 wins. And I think he's like on a 5-fight winning streak right now, so he's doing good for himself. But one thing that I kind of didn't really notice is that he did test positive for some PEDs like 3 years ago. And Faraz Zahabi kind of pointed out that he's a cheater. That's how he started to, I guess, keep his career alive, because he's getting older, but somehow he got better, or somehow at least he managed to stay around and keep winning. I don't know if he got better or not. I think he's still John Fitch. Like, he managed to stay John Fitch, so maybe the drugs help him keep that same Fitch being a wet blanket conditioning and pace. But it's not like his striking is still not the best. He's still, if he is on PEDs and using PEDs, still has no punching power, still not a knockout artist. All he is still John Fitch, a lay and pray artist in conditioning. So, but with that lay and praying and kind of decent enough striking, no real knockout power, no real phenomenal striking technique, he's still John Fitch in the UFC. Like, you can say he's a little bit better, he's a little bit worse, but all in all around, he's still John Fitch. And I don't think any version of John Fitch really beats Rory MacDonald, because it's not like he has no amazing jab or no amazing boxing, no amazing footwork. What he really wants to do is take you down, lay on you, and control you. And Rory MacDonald has solid grappling to deal with that. He has solid takedown defense, hard to take down, hard to hold down, unless maybe you're Damian Maia. And even still, Damian Maia couldn't keep him down that long, or keep him down enough to beat him. So I think with this fighting, Rory MacDonald was able to sprawl on John Fitch to try to take him down. Maybe even reverse the position if John Fitch goes too desperate for the takedowns after getting jabbed up in the face. And, Rory MacDonald is very heavy on that jab, have his arm just pushed out there and just like pretty much squeezed up there. He's going to pop you in the face with jabs. That's like his best striking technique, the jab that sets everything up for him. It might be over telegraphed, but at this level, it's very hard for these MMA fighters to really deal with that. He's going to shove that down your throat, especially for like John Fitch, who wants to wrestle. That jab will be beat him in the face every time he tries to change levels, which is going to allow, once he starts getting affected by that jab, which is going to set up head kicks, set up body kicks. And it's going to be a bad night for John Fitch. I think John Fitch is going to at least try to be competitive, try to hang with him. But I think Rory MacDonald will be cracking with that jab. And once that jab going to set up everything and set up the breakdown effect. And then that's going to call John Fitch to get off his game. I think pretty much Rory MacDonald breaks him down, tears him up, doesn't allow him to have get into his game. And I see Rory MacDonald stop him in the second round. So in this fight, I had Rory MacDonald via second round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for Bellator 220, MacDonald versus Fitch. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.